Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. We're back for part 5 of planting seeds for bonsai. The rain held off yesterday, but it did rain all night. In fact, it has just started raining now. So last night it refilled my cube here. I was down to about here on, right about there, so it's filled it right up again. So I've used, that's about 100 liters that I used since it rained last, and that's just been on my bonsai. I think it's been about a week, maybe a week and a half. It's really starting to rain now. I got to get under cover and get all my succulents back in the greenhouse. Well, I made it in the greenhouse. I've got to get my baobab in. It's outside, and a few other succulents, so I better do that now. It seems to have stopped for a second, so I can do that. I can go get my succulents. Yeah, I don't want to leave the baobabs out in the rain. Well, I'm back outside now. The rain has tapered off, which is good because, my intent was to make a video. So I've got a new tree here. This is one that Connor gave me. It's a cutting, and it's a Ficus rumphii. So an Indian fig. Really nice. They're really good for bonsai. They look a lot like the Ficus religiosa, except they don't get the long drip tips on them. So if you look at that leaf, how short the drip tip is, and let's go look at the religiosa now. Here's a look at the Ficus religiosa leaf now. So it's a similar size, similar shape, not exactly. This one is maybe more heart-shaped, and it has this long drip tip coming off the end of the leaf, and the rain runs down and rolls off the end of this tip. This cutting is in a really small pot. It's just like a little seed pot. It's very tippy, and I want to get it in a larger pot and start growing this as a bonsai. I also have my seeds soaking in the pail here, so I'll be planting those today also. I got this really nice Japanese clay pot from Linda, the person that gave us the glass greenhouse. It's just a beautiful pot, and I think it'd be perfect for this tree. Let's have a look at the tree now. So I'll turn it around. You can see it a little easier from this angle. So there's the cutting comes up, and then there's a horizontal branch to the left, one to the right, and one out the back. So kind of a low spreading tree, and it's kind of an unusual style, but you see this in nature. Ficus trees with the branches coming out almost right at the ground level. I don't really have a tree styled that way with the really low branches, so I'm going to try it with this tree. I think it'll look okay. I think it will thicken up at the base, the junction of these 3 branches, so we will get some inverse taper, but I think I'll also get aerial roots dropping down off these branches, and it'll turn into something quite natural and quite unique looking, I think. And it's starting to rain again. I'm in the greenhouse here, and it's really raining out. So I've moved my succulents in. I've got my Portulacaria afroforest in down there. I brought all my jades in. They're down there, just to keep them out of the rain, because this may be a long, steady rain. And it rained all last night. I did bring them in last night too, so I try and keep all my succulents out of the rain and just water them when they need it. While I'm in the greenhouse here, I'll give you a tour of what's going on. My jade here that flowered last year is getting used to the outdoors. It's starting to get some new leaves up top. It's always a hard transition for the jades to go from indoor lighting to outdoor lighting, but it's making that transition. I have a Natal ficus and African ficus down here that's growing quite well. I did a severe chop on that to kind of get some taper into it. And my mimosa tree up here, you can see it's getting used to the outdoor light, and it's got new growth coming on it in the middle there. My yellow flowering hibiscus here has grown quite well since I did the big chop on it. It's doing well. The aloe has adapted to the outdoor light. My Ficus religiosa back there is doing well. I've got a few Natal ficuses down there. An edible fig that's having a bit of a hard time adapting to the outdoors. My Snow Queen hibiscus back there is doing quite well. I've got a few bougainvilleas here. My jade forest here, it didn't do well indoors. I shouldn't have cut it back in winter. That was my problem, but the main tree is recovering nicely. But these ones, I think this one's alive, the cutting, but the other ones died. And that's just because it started growing indoors, and then I thought, okay, I'll give it a little more water, and I gave it too much, and it shriveled up and died. My Ficus lyrata back here, it's got a bit of leaf burn on it because I brought it outdoors, but the new outdoor leaves are growing now. It's doing quite well. My Chifleur is doing well. My money tree here, I had to cut it back to fit it in the greenhouse and on the benches outside. It was quite huge. I'm not sure if I did that on video, but I just basically chopped the top off of it. And it's just starting to regrow new leaves on it now. My tiger bark ficus, in the 3D printed pot with the cement rock I made, is doing quite well. It's got new leaves. It's just adapted to the outdoors. My Delonix regia here is really taking off outdoors. It's looking really healthy. I got a cutting of a Ficus religiosa here that's rooted. I started this in winter, and usually when I start cuttings in winter, they don't take. It's just not warm enough and they don't get enough light, but this one did. So that's kind of exciting, and I have another religiosa cutting back here. My Christmas cactus in the corner is doing well. The big jade, the rough-barked jade that Connor gave me the cutting of, adapting well to the outdoors. Haven't noticed a lot of new growth. I guess there's new growth here, but not a lot. It hasn't come out into leaf or anything yet, so I'm just kind of keeping it humid and not watering it much. My climbing aloe here is just doing fantastic, so that'll be needing pruning soon. And that's my Portulacaria afroforest down here. It's getting really thick, and that will need pruning also very soon. The aloe, I think I'm going to have to do some pruning on this also. It's just to give it a bit of shape in the upper canopy. There's a shoot at the back that's getting really tall and vigorous, and I just want to kind of keep a rounded canopy on it. So I'll have to do a little pruning. It doesn't look like the rain is going to end anytime soon, so I'm going to make a mad dash indoors, and I'll either watch some bonsai videos or answer comments on my videos. So here I go. Well, I made it indoors. The rain has ended, and it almost looks like the sun might come out. So that's a nice surprise this afternoon. I'll work on getting the ficus repotted now. So the first step is to get the tree out of the pot. So here I go. It's coming. There we go. So there it is. I'm glad that it's not really root bound. If you see the roots here, there's lots of fine roots. It's not, you know, great big thick roots that have been in there for 3 or 4 years. So I'm going to comb them out, and we'll see what kind of trunk I have on this cutting. Okay, I'll begin combing out the roots now. So I'm getting a bit of a trunk here. Which is good, I guess. We don't want the branches too low. We don't want them on the ground. Because this is a fairly large leaf tree, I'm going to grow it as a fairly large bonsai. So I'm going to leave all these branches long. If I was making this a very small bonsai, I would prune off all these long branches and start, further sub-branching. But I want to keep all the foliage on the tree and as much of the roots as I can to develop the tree, to grow it, get a bigger trunk, a larger size tree. Now you could prune it off short and, slowly grow it over the years into a larger and larger tree. I'm hearing thunder. I thought it was a car or something at first. And I realized it's thunder. Anyway, yeah, so there's a lot of approaches you can take when growing a tree as a bonsai. You can slowly grow it larger. You can rapidly grow it. Generally the best trees are slowly grown. But, on a ficus, it's nice to have a powerful trunk and branches. Sounds like a train going by. Big freight train. So I'm just getting these roots sorted out. So this is grown from a cutting, so all the roots are fairly radial on it, which is, one advantage of a cutting grown bonsai, is you tend to get a nice root system. Slowly getting back to peace and quiet here. Okay, I'm going to rotate it around and work on the roots over here. You can see there's a few wrapped around the bottom of the pot, but not too many. So I'm glad. If you leave a ficus in the pot too long, as I said, you can develop really thick, coarse roots quickly, and you have to do a lot of hard root pruning to correct them later on. So I think this is at the perfect stage. So I don't know when this cutting was struck, but I would think probably last summer or last fall would be my guess. Probably within a year. I'm trying to be really careful with the roots so I don't break them all off or damage them. I think I'm going to take it over to the washing station now. My tub of water, and I'll kind of work on cleaning up the root base here. Okay, take my piece of wood out. That's just in there, that wood. If an animal ever fell in here and couldn't get out, at least they can go up on the piece of wood and save their lives. Like a mouse or something. Alright, so I'll just work away at getting all this old soil off the root base. I think that's about as far as I can go with the washing. I've got everything fairly clean. I can see all the roots, so I can make decisions on any root pruning I do. I'm going to do a little bit of root pruning. There's a few roots that I want to grow an even balanced root system. You don't want one root getting really strong and doubling in size compared to the other ones. So you can see some of them are really long, so I'm going to prune them back. And I'm looking where they come from. So this one doesn't come in a good direction. It comes directly down from the bottom of the tree. So I'm going to take it right off here. Get in there. There. So that root's coming off. There's another one off here that it's not too bad. It's not, it is growing downwards, but I can prune it off shorter and redirect it to a better direction, like that. And that gets rid of those two major roots that were growing stronger than all the others. There's an ant on here. If you see an ant, it must mean it has scale, and it does. I can see some underneath the leaves here. So I'll have to give this a spray with soap and water. Make sure I get all the scale off of it. Ficus are notorious for having scale insects on them. The only other root, see this one here, it's kind of sticking up too much. You want a nice flow line coming down the trunk, curving into a kind of a flat radial root base. So I don't want this one sticking up like that. That one comes off too, like that. And I think the rest are okay. I'm going to leave them quite long, just comb them out, and that'll be it for the root pruning. I'll cut out some drainage screens for the pot, fill it with a base layer of soil, and then I'll plant the cutting. All right, here I go with the base layer of soil. I'm trying to look at the tree and determine, well, what do I want for the front of the tree? I probably want the branch coming up front, there's a vertical one, to be the front of the tree. That way, if I ever did decide in the future to remove these lower branches, I can do that and I still have a fairly upright tree. I think somewhere around there. Okay, let's see if I can get this tree in place. So, I want to rotate it just a bit like that. Now, I'll have to comb out these roots very carefully. I'll try and keep my hand out of the way. That's one disadvantage with the low branches. It's hard to see. Hard to get in and see what's going on. Okay, that's not bad there. I'm going to start getting some soil in here. And I'm not too fussy about the front of the tree or the placement in the pot at this present time because the tree is very young. It looks like I have just enough soil mixed up for this tree. And then I'll have to mix up more. So I'm trying to get the roots kind of the soil in around them so the tree doesn't tip over. But I am going to have to put some stones around the base to support it. It's just too unstable with these long branches and until the root system starts to fill the pot. All right, let me get some stones to put around the base of the tree. Before I place the rocks around the tree, I'm going to give everything a water, and that'll help hold the tree in place with the heavier wet soil. So I got this really cool rock that Tom sent me from Grow and Clip Bonsai for Seniors. It's an awesome rock, really highly textured. So I'm going to place that underneath this branch like that. I've got another cool rock here I can place under this one. And this will all help to hold the tree up. And then I've got a kind of reddish rock I can put out front here. So it doesn't look the greatest with the rocks around it, but after about a month, I can take all the rocks away and the tree will be really stable in the pot. These roots will grow like crazy. There's a look at those scale insects. You can see the little blisters along the branch there. So I just break all those scale blisters like that. And then I come in with the soap and water and you just blitz them. So it's 40 parts water to 1 part liquid dish soap, the kind you use for washing the dishes by hand. And it really works well. And you have to repeat the application, every, I'd say every couple of weeks. Just keep your eye on the tree, and if you notice any more scale insects or ants crawling up your tree, there's some scale or aphids or something somewhere. If I look at the tree, you can notice that some of the leaves are kind of curling up a bit. They're going a bit limp, and that's quite normal after repotting. The first sort of 12 hours after repotting are quite critical with these ficus, that you don't want the soil drying out. You've got to get new roots forming, and that'll get water going up to those branches, and the tree will perk up a lot. So yeah, don't let the soil dry out on the first day or two at all. Try and keep the plant in the shade Keep it misted and well watered, and it should recover quite quickly. All right, I'm going to apply the soap and water now, so here I go. You have to get all over the tree, underneath the leaves. All right, it's been a few minutes. I'll rinse it off now using rainwater. And I'll give my soil a good rinse too. I'll have to get more water. It is starting to rain again. I guess that sun was just out for a second. Okay, I think that's good right there. When I repot a ficus, I always look at the weather. I make sure the worst scenario would be, you repot it on a hot and humid day, and then the next day suddenly the temperature drops to, just above freezing or something, and that's not a good thing to have happen. So look at the forecast, and if it looks, warm and good weather for the next week after you're doing the repot, then you'll be good. Yeah, you just don't want it to suddenly go cold or do something strange. So this is my very first Ficus rumphii I've ever had. So it's kind of exciting. It's a really good species for a bonsai. It's a popular one too. So I think it's going to recover and grow really well in the upcoming months of summer. So it'll be exciting to follow the progress of this tree into the future. I'm going to put the tree in the greenhouse now, but I don't have to. It's humid out, it's cloudy, so it would be fine sitting on the bench, and I'm sure it would be recovered by tonight or by tomorrow. But I'm going to put it in the greenhouse just so it doesn't get bumped by any animals or anything, and keep it safe.